Morning folk, I'm going to do a video and I wanted to show you my new hat that my grandson bought me. I've never wore a hat in my life, but in the last few years I've got about 10. I just put her on. I've washed my hair for the video, brushed my beard, put my hat on to show you. Now the serious stuff. Right, I wanted to talk about this Towell Mitre plane. I've done a video already on it, but I'll add to it. This is the original infill. See, the wedge was bashed about. The front infill was all right, and I did originally make a new rosewood wedge, which I can put back into this plane quite easily. Just a couple of screws. But I do love boxwood, and it's seldom ever seen in mitre planes, although I have seen one original Gabriel infilled with boxwood. And over the years I've infilled, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 mitre planes with boxwood when the rosewood has been all smashed up. As you can see, I've coloured the boxwood some time ago. But what I wanted to show you now is, on the first video, somebody had opened the mouth up quite considerable. And I've had a go at filling it in. Because when it's filled in, it doesn't tear the wood. When there's a wide mouth in front of a mitre plane, it tears more easily. So it's more or less back to its original state now. What else can I tell you? That's the original rosewood infill, and I put a bit of boxwood on recently. I didn't do this in the beginning to match it all up like I did that one. This is an infill I'll talk about in a minute that fits the Holtzapfel plane. So anyway, oh right, how did I do that? Let me show you. I wanted to attempt to infill the mouth without altering in any way the original plane. I could have let a piece of steel in, dovetailed, and this, that and the other, but that meant I'd got to cut into the original metal, which I didn't want to do. And if the method I've used, if it didn't work, I could knock it out and there would be no alteration to the original plane. But it'd have its wide mouth again. So I thought about it for some time, how to do it. And I love using second-hand material. I cut this piece of metal out of one of these back iron, because of the bend there and the thinness there. And what I did was, I cut a little piece off and bent it a bit more so that it fit the mouth opening, and it didn't alter that. That's part of this. So I bent it round slightly and I glued it in. Can you see that, Sarah? With arrow dye. So if it didn't work, I could just bash it out again. No alteration to the plane, but it has worked, and you wouldn't know by looking inside. It wasn't original, that bit, and I glued it in, and it works, and it doesn't tear anymore, so I'm very pleased about that. I've put the old iron back in for the time being. I did make a new one, as I explained in the other video. See, I've aged all this to make it look the part. Right, that's enough about that. I also renewed the infill in boxwood on this Holtzaffel. But the original rosewood is so good, it's got to be kept in this rare plane. But I have put this in to try it. Again, only a couple of screws. In this instance, it comes out. Sometimes you can't get the infills out very easily. But this one and the other one just popped out. So I did the same again as the other plane. This is the original. It's got beech there and a piece of rosewood on the top. So I did the same with this piece of beech and boxwood on the top. I've actually put this in here and taken it out again because, like I say, this is such a rare plane, you've got to keep the original infill in. Oh, and it had JG on it, some owner, and I'll put JG on that just to keep everything as original as possible. I mean, look at the fine mouth on that. This is a magic plane, same as the other one, absolutely magic. Anyway, that's that. It doesn't tear now. If you want sharpening, this is the original line.
Yep.
While I'm about it, I'll just point out the two front infills. This is an original Towell, and this is a copy of the Holtzaffel. And they're very, very similar in shape towards the mouth. I've noticed they have a dip here and a slight curve towards the mouth on both. A bit different to a lot of Mitre planes I've renewed in the past, but not Towell and Holtzaffel. I like that feature. Here we go again, a little bit on the end of the video. This piece of timber I've talked about before, it looks like marble. It's beautiful. And I made 3 planes out of the same piece of timber. But when I go to shows and that, which I don't do very often, I very often ask people if they know what this timber is. And nobody's ever guessed boxwood. Because it doesn't look like boxwood. But I just wanted to show you, this is the first, I think this is the first saw I had made with Shane Skelton. Look at the colour of the boxwood now. It's aged a bit. It's absolutely a perfect piece of boxwood, which I supplied to Shane. And it took me a long while to find a piece big enough. But anyway, Mike Cawthorne gave me an enormous piece of boxwood. I did do a video somewhere. It was this wide and it was that deep. it was the biggest round piece I've ever had. I've seen a bigger piece, and he gave it to me. He'd had it 10 years it was in the hedge where he has his workshop, which burnt down recently, unfortunately. So it was at least 10 years old, weathered, and when I got it home, I planed the end grain up, although it was this big. I loved using my Mitre planes on end grain, boxwood, try them out. And I think I've mentioned this before, there was a yellow perimeter all the way around this big piece, the widest being about an inch. I just managed to get the width out for the handle, but I couldn't get, although it was a big piece of boxwood, I could only get one handle out of it. The other perimeter, as it went round, wasn't an inch thick. And all the rest was rotten, black rotten. But out of this massive piece of boxwood that was all rotten, I got this stunning handle, and I got 3 of these out of the rotten piece. This, of course, isn't rotten, but all the rest was. One went to Amy in America for her lighthouses. She told me she'd use it on glazing bars. It was a gift. I told her it was not to be used. It was put on the shelf because it's so pretty, but knowing Amy, she used it. And another friend of mine, David Burnham, in England on the East Coast, he persuaded me to part with the other one. And I've kept one because of the beautiful timber. But would you believe it? Came out of the same piece of wood. I love telling that story.